All right, welcome back to Surviving to Thriving for Highly Sensitives. I'm your host and high sensitivity coach, Tammy Goen, and we're talking about all things high sensitivity to help you manage and reduce that overwhelm that's so typical for high sensitivity folks, and to develop some tools and just look at things in a different way so that we really can thrive. And this month we are talking about energy. Energy is something that I hear about from a lot of people, that they just don't know how to stop bringing in, absorbing so much energy, and it really gets in their way. So it's a very, very pertinent topic. And first, I'm going to just share my screen for a moment. Just wanted you to be able to see this lovely quote. Don't allow people into your energy field on a regular basis that you wouldn't want to be like, yourself. I had to read that a couple of times myself, but so we do talk about a lot of that energy coming in, and sometimes it's good, healthy energy, and sometimes it's not. So just wanted to start with that. And let's talk about, just as a reminder, we are like big sponges. We, soak up all kinds of things throughout the day, all the time. And we don't have as many filters, if you will, as others are likely to. And so that really builds up a lot. And a lot of that input that comes into that bucket that we have that fills up is all about that energy. So other people's energy, the group energy, like in a group situation, all of that can really start to add up, even if we're not paying attention to it. This is something that I've been very aware of in recent times, that I thought I was doing a really great job with energy and keeping mine and not taking on others. And then I realized that actually, with all of the events in the world, it was really impacting me quite a lot. And I had a little mini meltdown, a couple months ago over something that happened in my community. And I realized, okay, yeah, I need to be very conscious of this, even when I think, I've got things, managed. So it's really important to just really be aware of that energy, that amount that is coming in all the time, and recognize that that's just the way we are wired, and we just soak all that up. So we have to be very conscious and have tools to make that not get in our way or make things really challenging for us. So before I go into that realm, I wanted to just mention this idea, the differences, similarities, crossover between being highly sensitive, or as I like to use, the term highly sensing, because that's what we do. We sense really deeply and then we process deeply. And then empaths. So are you highly sensitive? Are you an empath, or both? And some people will say that, an empath is just like pegged at the very top of the scale of anyone who is highly sensitive. That scale just, way, way up there. In my experience, it's also a matter of what the experience of that energy is like. So if you're highly sensitive, you pick up on energies, you kind of have a sense of what people need or what's going on, or that there is something going on with them, things that are, just happening around you. You pay attention, you notice them, and then you have your own response, your own feeling to those energies. An empath goes a little bit beyond that in terms of feeling it as though it's their very own. And there can be a lot of confusion about, whose energy is that, or even recognizing that it's not yours. We can still do that as highly sensitives if we're not empaths, that we start to pick up on that and realize, oh, I'm reacting to something that's not mine, but maybe not feeling it as though it's yours. So, an example, I actually don't always consider myself as an empath, but I have to kind of regroup that, relook at that sometimes when I think of certain circumstances or stories like what I'm going to share right now. I have a friend that I hadn't actually connected with for a long time, and we're not best friends, but, we really like each other and enjoy spending time together. Hadn't seen her for a while. One day I went running, which I would do just, now and then, not a big runner. But I started running, and immediately both of my knees hurt. And I don't have knee issues, and that was very strange to me. And no matter what I did, they were just hurting, and I had to stop. Even walking was hurting. And then for days, even, bending down, reaching for something, anytime I was bending my knees, they were really, really sore. And this was so weird to me because I didn't have knee issues. I never have. And a few days after that, I actually reconnected with that friend at an event in town and was like, oh, how's everything going? And she immediately went into this whole scenario of her knee issues that she'd been dealing with. And it was pretty intense. She'd had a really negative reaction to medical treatment, and both of her knees had been so sore she couldn't even walk without a walker initially. And she was rehabbing, had been like 2 weeks worth of that. And it was just a little shocking to me. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. That's, I don't know what to do with that information, because something is, was making some kind of connection, but I wasn't really sure. And sure enough, by the next day, my knee pain was completely gone. And I realized that wasn't even mine. And even though I wasn't directly connected with her for a while, somehow I picked that up, apparently, because my knee pain went, oh, so sorry, went completely away. So we can be an empath, we can be highly sensitive, we can be both. And it's all just, again, about being aware of that energy level, what's coming in, how we're protecting ourselves, but not shutting ourselves down. That's really important to be aware of as well. So one good thing to ask always when you're responding to something and you're just feeling off and it's something energetic, you can ask yourself, is this mine? And it doesn't mean that you're an empath and you're soaking it up as if it's yours, but you're still very aware of it and you are having that response to it. So asking yourself that very simple question, is this mine? And then if you realize, I don't think this really has anything to do with me, or sometimes we have reactions that aren't really like our own personality. You'd respond, you walk down to the river. This was another recent experience. I walked down to a river, my river spot, and there were a couple people there that I could hear talking. And I immediately got really angry. And I didn't know why, but I wanted to spew all kinds of things that are just like, wow, what is that about? And then as I got closer, I realized that they were actually having an argument and they were slewing all of these horrible comments, back and forth to each other. And it was another awareness, like, wow, I was picking up on that energy so much that I felt like I was angry, but it wasn't even about me. And so as soon as I realized that, I was able to say, oh, that's not mine. I don't want that, letting that go. And then that anger completely washed away because I had that awareness. So asking yourself, is this mine? And then if it's not, saying, I don't accept this. I'm letting this release. This is not for me. If it is yours, then you can do your tools to minimize, do some deep breathing immediately. That's always the really best one to go to at the beginning. Just do that calming, centering place, that deep breathing. Let that all go. And then use some of those tools, whether it's a body scan or a meditation, or just get out and walk around in nature and do some things that are, serving you, and see if you can calm that energy state. Of course, then you can start looking at emotions, which we'll talk about next month. But being aware is the first piece. And especially if you realize that's not even mine, and then you let it go. And why this is so important is that, of course, if we have, our bucket, our input bucket, and all this stuff is coming in, and our own energy bucket is being depleted by all of these things, we're out of balance, and we're going to end up with overwhelm, exhaustion, not wanting to participate in things, not feeling like we have the bandwidth for anything. So it's really important to not ignore this and just say, oh, well, that's me being sensitive, so I'll just deal with it. But to realize that we really need to hear that, listen to what our bodies are telling us, and then do something about that. And a lot of times, whenever we've released something, we need to do that recharge time. So whether that's you're at work and you can't leave, but you can go into the bathroom for 5 minutes and just deep breathe and recharge. Think of some really beautiful, your happy place, maybe even see view on your phone. If you're really limited on time, just get some nature images, or, a happy video, a funny dog video or something like that, to kind of reset, regroup, and then go forward. And then, of course, later, some more lengthy time to regroup and charge yourself up again. So if we're using this self-check system, like, how am I doing? What do I need? Which I've talked about before. Even if we're not like in that moment feeling we're triggered or aware of energies, but we do that ongoing, check-in, we can sometimes realize my energy is kind of off, or I'm on edge and I think I'm picking up a bunch of stuff or whatever. But quite often, if we don't connect directly, if we don't ask and check in with ourselves, it'll be happening and we just won't realize it. We won't be paying attention to it. And then we get super drained. We back out of things, or we're not interested in connecting with our friends, or we just want to, like, curl up in a little ball or something and just feel really overwhelmed. So we really need to take that step of checking in frequently, to how we are doing, and then see if there's something that we need to do, for our energy system. So one thing that's really, really helpful is not only being aware, like in my example of the river, if I had gone down there and there were a bunch of different people, there's going to be a bunch of different energies, right? And as I walked by, I'd probably sense that either nothing, or like, oh, everything's fine, or, oh, there's, jovial, happy-go-lucky energies, whatever. And then I would get closer to the people who are having this argument. And even if I couldn't hear anything, you say there's so much going on that I can't identify exactly what they're saying, but I have that feeling like, oh, something's happening. Like in that example, by the time I got around to closer to where those people were, they were silent and probably glaring at each other, I'm assuming, but I don't know. I didn't get that close, but it got very quiet, but the energy did not change, right? It was, if anything, it was building and more, more intensely heavy, negative, whatever term you'd like to use, because they were like at a standoff and building up, their arsenal of what was going to come spewing out later. So being aware of that energy, even if you can't identify it directly, and notice that it's affecting you, right? And allowing for that to be not only acknowledged, but that it's okay. And that when that happens, we can remove ourselves. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'm not going to go over by those people, or I'm going to go over here instead and get way away from that energy. So we can do that sometimes, and certainly that can be helpful. There are other times when we can't leave a situation, but we still need to be able to manage our energy, right? So we can ask ourselves, what can I do right now to feel better, even though there's all of these energies happening around me and I can't change that. And so again, those tools of, the deep breathing and the body scan or something like that can bring you centering with the earth and cosmos, whatever you'd like to do to just kind of regroup and recenter. But then part of our mindset and the things that we're telling ourselves, if we can remind ourselves, okay, this is temporary, it's not forever, so I can manage in this brief span of time. Or again, reminding yourself, this is not mine. I don't need to attach a meaning to it because I'm going to be gone soon. It's not going to, carry with me because I choose not to have it carry with me. But just being very conscious, very aware of what's happening with that energy, with your field, what you feel like is coming in. And then what I'm going to work with you on shortly here is like an exercise for creating kind of a bubble for maintaining your own energy and having others not be in your field. But one of the things that is good to just be aware of is the types of energy, and being really intentional of what you allow in and out. So before I do the bubble, I will explain that. So what I've come to do, as I explained, I was realizing that energy was coming into me and was really affecting me, even though I wasn't aware. So now my very conscious, intentional practice, every single day, I do meditate every day. And as I sit down to begin my meditation, the first thing I do after I ground is immediately say, I release, reject, let go of any energies that are not here to serve me, to support my energetic, physical, emotional, spiritual bodies. I refuse anything that is going to be hurtful to me or is not supportive or that blocks me in any way. That's a lot of words, but basically I use something like that. And I just consciously say, that is not allowed into my field. And anything that is questionable has to have permission. So I will need to be aware and allow that. And anything that is totally benevolent in my own best interest, and that allows me to be in someone else's best interest, anything that's going to support my physical, emotional bodies, my spiritual being, all of that is allowed in without me having to give direct permission. So without quite as many words, I go through that each time that I sit down to meditate now. And I've found that it's really helped with some of those reactions I was having to these just being unaware, these unknown energies that were coming in, or reactions to, the greater picture, whatever's happening in the world. So that's been very, very helpful for me. I was even experiencing some vertigo off and on for a while, and I couldn't figure out what in the world that was having to do with. And I was experiencing it as vertigo, but it wasn't releasing or resolving as vertigo normally would with the little techniques and such. And it would come and go, which is really odd. And then I finally realized it was related again to this energy piece. And so once I've started initiating that, this is mine, only things can come in that I allow, everything else must go away. And that hasn't returned, and it's been much, much better. Now, if I forget to do that for a couple of days, I can start to notice some kind of unsettled feeling, something that's just not quite right. And I'll realize, oh yeah, I haven't done my energy piece. And so having that intention, and I know that might seem like really simplistic and like, how can that possibly do anything? But if we look at the fact that everything is energy, everything has a frequency, and that includes our thoughts and our intention. And intention is really, really powerful, even though it's not something that we can see. And a lot of people will say, oh, whatever. Yeah, it's nice to say positive thoughts, but you can't, control anything that way. But our intention really is very, very powerful. So if we can get used to being very conscious of the way that we want things to be, and aware of what we're putting out there, and having positive intentions. And I believe I talked about this recently, but like if you're getting ready to go to bed, you want to have like a positive, intention as you go to sleep for sleep time, so that you're not locked into whatever's been happening the rest of that day. And you say, okay, my intention for this night is to, heal or resolve an issue when I wake up, or something like that. But having this intention is powerful because of that energetic frequency that it creates. So what I would like to do is take you through an example of just one exercise that you can do to help you with your energy. So if you can, wherever you are, and if you want to, you can close your eyes, you can stare off, you can do whatever you need to do if you're sitting at your desk at work, however that works for you. And go ahead and just kind of focus inward, and then allow your breathing to slow and settle. Let it slow down. If you can, make that exhale just a little bit longer than the inhale. Just feel centered, connect yourself with the earth. Feel that sense of grounding, connectedness with the earth. And now imagine that surrounding you, and that can be a couple inches, that can be a couple feet, whatever you would like, whatever feels good, resonates with you in this moment. And you create a semi-visible, just so you can visualize it, obviously it's invisible to everyone, but visualize that you have this kind of mesh bubble surrounding your whole body, top, bottom, even under your feet, everywhere. And it's a semi-permeable boundary, if you will, a semi-permeable layer mesh bubble that's around you. And you can see it as you're visualizing, but again, it's, no one else sees it, but it's with you always. But when we're aware, we can decide how big that's going to be, and be very conscious of what is allowed in and out. So being aware of what that bubble is like around you. It's some kind of a little mesh, so things can go in and out. And it might have a color, it might be sparkly, whatever works for you. Just establish that awareness of that bubble. And the reason I say semi-permeable is that any energy that's yours, your love, your understanding, your compassion, all of that gets to go out through that bubble with no resistance. It flows freely. You don't have to be aware of it at all. That can just go out through there. You can send constant energy outward through that bubble with no restriction, no permission needed. The energy that's coming in, however, is going to require your permission, and it's going to need to have certain parameters. So with your intention, set that boundary and say, only energies coming in are allowed if they are supportive to me, in my best interest, somehow are going to help me and not block me in any way. And anything that's malevolent or not in my interest that's going to be blocking me will come and bounce off the outside of that bubble and just disappear into the ether. And we don't have to worry about it. It's not going to be affecting anyone else. It's just going to go and dissipate and it's gone. But it's not going to penetrate inside your inner space, inside your field, at whatever level you've set that. And see that happening. So imagine someone is standing in front of you and they're yelling or they're saying things that you can just see or feel their energy is just not helpful for you. And see them standing there in front of you, spewing whatever. And then be aware of your bubble and see, you can give some kind of a visual to those words or that energy. Maybe the energy is kind of frenetic and dark or whatever it looks like. See it coming at you and then see it just hitting the edge of that bubble and bouncing right off into the ether. And you can see that it just dissipates, just dissolves, and it's gone. But it's not allowed inside that bubble. So see if you can just kind of practice that with another example of some kind of energy or a person's statement or something that's in your environment. Doesn't feel like it's good. Say, okay, that stays on the outside of my bubble. And as it comes toward me, it bounces off, ricochets out, disappears, dissipates, and you're left with just your own little safe, contained energy field, whatever you're not choosing to share. And that's the other piece too. And you can come back to the room now if you'd like, or you can stay there and work with your bubble. But we want to also be careful that we're not going to shut ourselves off from everyone and everything just because there's so much energy out there. So if we're really clear on what energy comes into our inner space, then we don't have to shut down and say, I'm not letting any energy in, and therefore you're completely disconnected. And that can lead to not even like being aware of your feelings and things like that because you're so disconnected. And we don't want that because we love connection. We like that deep connection, right? We love to be part of the world and experiencing all of these amazing things. We don't want to shut that down. We just want to be aware and give specific permission and intention for the energies that are going to be coming in. So being very clear about that. You're not, rejecting everyone and everything. It just needs to be in your interest, supporting you. And I mentioned, that can change if you're out and you're in an activity and everything is working really, really well. If you're conscious about it, you can say, oh, my bubble is just right in here. It's only a couple inches, everything is feeling really good. I'm not concerned about anything. And you don't have to have a huge bubble. But if you're in a situation where you're already aware of everything going on and you want to be really clear and have that intention, you can expand that bubble out so that it's very obvious and very clear to you, obviously, but in the world of energy, it'll be very obvious. So that you're very intentional about, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I'm conscious and aware that this is not allowed into my bubble. I'm going to expand that bubble a little bit. So I feel like I have a little bit better cushion. And it can help you feel a little bit more secure in that. So however that transpires day to day, moment to moment, just having that awareness and being willing to check in and say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm going to do with it. And then allowing for that constant flow of stuff that's okay gets to come in and your stuff gets to go out. But anything else that could be troubling or not supportive does not get its way in. And then of course, we can't be conscious of that every single moment of the day. So there'll be times when maybe stuff starts to, make its way in and you can again stop and say, whoa, I'm feeling something here. Let me check in. What's going on? and then reestablish your connection with that bubble and say, everything out, that's not okay for me. So you can use that as a tool as you go through your day as well, because as I said, we can't be conscious of that, every single moment if we're going to be doing other things. So just having that awareness and being able to go to that as we need. And it's actually a good thing to start with every morning. If you're not doing meditation at the beginning of your day and you're, kind of caught up in your morning routine or whatever, if you just take that 30 seconds or so to just say, oh, okay, where's my bubble? I'm being very conscious. The energies that are not working are being released, bouncing off, not allowed in, only the positive stuff is in. Here I go. And then you start your day that way from a place of only allowing what's going to work for you. So hopefully that was helpful for you. And I will continue through the rest of the week or the rest of the month to address different ideas about energy. And in a couple of weeks, I will be having a guest. Actually, I guess that'd be 3 weeks on the 22nd, who's going to help us with movement with our energy and music. So that's going to be really exciting. But thank you so much for joining me as always. And if you have any questions, want to reach out, my information is on the page, of course, and in the description. And you can check out my online course, which is very comprehensive, hitting all of the things that we're talking about here, but at a much deeper level, obviously. And just enjoy the opportunity to be of service to you and help you on that path to surviving to thriving. So thank you so much again for joining, and I will see you next time.